The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, friends.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome in, everybody, animal lovers and whatnot.
Yes.
Welcome to another episode of Spiritual Philos-o-Chatter with the Joneses, and I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And here we are to talk to you for another hour.
Yeah.
This is episode 33.
Yes.
And what is the topic?
This is So You Want to Talk to the Animals.
So you do. All right.
Yes.
Well, be prepared for what they have to say.
I am very excited to talk about my favorite subject.
Yes, this is right up your alley.
Of course.
So I might be on the quieter side of this, but I do have some things.
Yeah, I can go. That's for sure.
But
you have a different perspective, though.
yeah,
because
I'm learning.
Yeah, because I've been, this all my life. I've always had this connection, and I think yours is building more and more now.
Right.
That you're with me. You're starting to see a different side to animals than you did before. So you can show a different perspective to our listeners that it's probably more of them that they can relate to.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, before we hop into this episode, do you have anything from last week you want to talk about?
Yes, I do. Last week, I had mentioned that I was going to be working for a company called Shine Psychics, and I have started working for that company.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I wanted to let everybody know, because I do know that sometimes, like, we have friends or whatever, people that we know that may not want to get a reading from me and just come to me and say, hey, I need one, because they want to maybe be anonymous or whatever. So it gives you that opportunity, because I don't know who you are. I might pick up on that. I don't know. Probably not, but maybe.
Right.
But you're still anonymous. You know what I mean? So if you would like to get a reading from me, but you don't want to come directly to me, that's a good way to do it.
Totally. Don't be scared.
No, don't be scared.
Do it.
Yeah. So, and it's a lot of fun so far. I'm having a good time. I'm seeing a different side to things, because the work that I do mostly, that I've been doing up to this, is a lot of the animal work and the spirit work. I do some human readings, like love readings, but I don't do a lot of those.
No.
This is 99% of those is love readings. And so I'm learning something different, and I'm seeing things from a different perspective, and seeing the changes I'd like to make in the world and teach people certain things. And so it's opening up my eyes to a lot.
So it's more of a, what is the word, that type of, what did you call it?
Novelty?
Novelty, yes.
Yeah, the novelty to me is like the palm reading and the crystal ball reading, and I guess you could put tarot cards in there, because I do use tarot when I do like regular psychic readings. It helps me.
Right.
So yeah, you could put it in that category. I'm not big on predicting people's futures, because I think that the universe will tell you which way to go. I don't want to tell you who to pick and for a relationship.
Right.
I want you to listen to the universe and to listen to yourself, not some psychic that could be wrong.
True.
Because, I mean, am I accurate? Yes. Have I been wrong? Well, yeah. If I hadn't, I'd go play the lottery.
Yeah, I don't think it's that easy.
Yeah, no. So it's definitely, a different experience.
It's a cool app and an idea that they've developed for this. I think it's kind of like, for what you said, those that want to be a little bit more discreet, their anonymity.
Yeah.
Maybe just kind of trying it out. And it's a platform where these people actually seek out really talented people like yourself.
Yes.
To work for them.
I had to take tests. This wasn't just, oh, I'm a psychic. No, they test you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. So, I mean, it was, but it wasn't.
Right.
I get in my own head and
it's
I get nervous.
But it's not hard for you.
Yeah. It's not hard. It's just nerve. Yeah. So, but yes, we're all tested and very, very accurate. And so, once upon a time, there was, Miss Cleo and her psychic network. And I remember calling those numbers And the stuff that I was told was just so dumb. I remember one telling me I was going to be the singer in a band. I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, me and my fantastic voice.
Yeah.
So I understand if people are skeptical about those types of lines but this is very, very different. And from the inside now, I see a different perspective to it too. And these kinds of things, if they're reputable, look at their ratings, look at Shine's ratings on the app stores. They're very, very high. And usually the ones that aren't maybe are like billing or whatever, but not about the psychic's accuracy.
Right.
We're very accurate.
Yeah, they seem really legitimate.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Lots of fun so far.
Well, check her out on Shine.
Yeah.
And let it shine.
Yeah, for sure. So,
cool.
Yeah. And then the other thing I want to talk about is a shower meditation that I had the other day. And this was really weird. I'm going to talk about this twice in the episode. This is the first time. But this part, I thought that I was getting a message for me, that it was just coming for me. And what I realized after I started listening for a while was that this is a message for our listeners. This is a message for everybody. And within this message, I've also been told that you may hear things in our episodes that stand out to you, that may be messages that are coming to you. So you have to listen to those because we don't necessarily know that like the other side's sending a message through us,
right.
But they'll do that. So just so you know, if there's things I say in this that you feel are directed at you, they probably are. Because the message that I was getting, and I kind of shared this on Facebook, is that there are only 4 weeks left in this decade. Not just in this year, in this decade. We're going into 2020.
Right.
We're going into a year that a lot of us thought we might not even be here for.
That's true.
Yeah. And here we are.
Yep.
So what is it that you want to leave behind in the 2010 era? What do you want to move on to 2020, letting go of completely? What are the things that happened to you in these last 10 years that do not need to move forward with you into the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, something that we forget as humans is that we don't look at things from other people's angles. We only look at that from our own.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody that maybe you have a beef with and you're not letting it go, that other person probably doesn't have the same perspective of it than you do.
Yep.
So the only person you're torturing is yourself.
Yeah.
So these are the types of things they're trying to tell us is let go of these things. Let go of always needing the control. Let go of,
Yeah.
It's surrender.
The worry.
Exactly.
Somebody shared something, it might have been you, I don't know, but a quick synopsis of it is if you wake up today worrying about tomorrow, you're then putting 2 days of energy and strength that you require to get through a day.
Yep.
You're cramming 2 days into one day.
Then where are you getting?
Exactly.
Yep.
And by the time you get to that day, you're now worried about the next day. So half of your strength is only going to the present, the here and now.
Yes.
The other half is going to tomorrow when tomorrow isn't even here yet.
Yes.
Nor is it promised to any of us, like you said.
Right.
So that is the biggest. For me, it's like try to stay in the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
Try to just be.
Yes, just be. Just let life take the course it's going to. This is something that I'm learning working in this Shine company is that people are trying to force relationships that aren't meant to be because they don't want to be alone.
Right.
And that's another thing. You got to let go of those worries that I'm going to be alone forever because you're not. There will be somebody. You just have to work on yourself first. So going into 2020, which sounds like a crazy year to even be going into, like where are the flying cars? Instead, we have Elon Musk and whatever you want to call that crazy thing. That's what 2020 is going to bring.
Yeah.
Anyways, I forgot where I was going. Anyways, I forgot where I was going with this. But going into 2020, let's all try and leave these things behind. Let's not look at it as a New Year's resolution. Let's look at it as working on ourselves and making the better for our future, because I can tell you that if I know at 20 what I know at 40, I would have lived entirely different. Yeah. So the younger generations now, I feel like they need to know that what they're experiencing is normal. And so just live your life. Just be happy.
It doesn't mean, I would say go out there, work hard, take chances, open yourself up, be vulnerable.
Yep.
But try not to have expectation or worry about the outcome.
Right.
Let it be as you be.
Surrender.
Yes.
Surrender to the universe. Yep.
Yeah.
So when they gave me this message, it was presented as a challenge. And I was told that one of the episodes we'll do close to the new year will be about this, about, letting go, moving on, whatever, putting this past decade behind us. So in that time, they're challenging us to do that, to not to look at it as New Year's resolutions, not to look at it as everything has to be done at once, but just to take baby steps to make changes in our lives that we would like to make so that we go into a fresh decade with fresh perspective.
Yep.
So that's a challenge to you.
Awesome. Bye-bye 2000 teens.
Gosh, that was a crazy one. It really was. Really was.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, be interesting to see what the next decade has to bring.
Yes. You had something else, a review, or somebody shared something with you, and you told me this week.
Oh, maybe the girl, are you talking about for the podcast?
Yeah.
The girl that I met yesterday.
Yeah.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I did an event yesterday at a yoga studio that one of my best friends works at. And so I did readings, and this young lady came in, and I felt this instant attraction to her. Like, oh my gosh, she's just like me. Like I could feel it instantly, So we started talking, and she told me that she's going to be a spiritual counselor. And she's having fears. She's not letting go of her fears, and they're holding her back. And so everything that was showing up in the card was showing, it was exactly what was happening. So I told her about our podcast, and, I said, let's connect. She has a podcast as well. So I said, I'd love to have you on the show. Anyway, so we exchanged numbers, and we're now Facebook friends and all of that. But she sent me a message last night after listening to episode 22 about our podcast about signs. So this is what she said.
The episode.
Yes, sorry, I'm getting off track. The episode about signs, episode 22. She listened to that, and so this is her review to us on that. Love the episode. Such a needed message that goes right back into our talk about trust. It's sinking in even deeper. Trust is a huge layer in releasing the past, growing to one's potential, and enjoying life in the only way that makes sense. I loved how you talked about how the signs begin to become more and more subtle, and as we continue to trust, they can take us even deeper. Fabulous content.
Nice. Well, thanks for your input.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
It was really cool that I met her, and it was really that whole thing. It's so nice to hear those kinds of things that we're able to help, and that's really what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes along with it too. What I was talking about, you got to release to the universe, surrender that fear.
Yeah, you have to have faith and trust.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the recap.
I think that's enough. I think I rambled on long enough.
All right. Well, then let's hop into episode 33. So you want to talk to animals.
Yes.
What you got to say, man?
I love to talk to the animals. It's one of my favorite things to do. I've been an animal communicator my whole life. I didn't know what I was doing as a kid. I just thought, I was getting lucky.
Yeah.
You don't really know. Nobody tells you these things. And then to give you a little history on me, I as an adult was told what this is called. I don't remember how it was brought up in conversation, but somebody told me that if you can talk to animals or you feel animals, it's called animal communication. And I then got some tapes, some cassette tapes, because we're talking like back, when the
you
dinosaurs
say cassette
roamed.
tapes, yeah.
The 20-year-olds are like, what? What's a cassette tape? So anyway, I listened to these, and they taught me how to meditate and how to listen and how to focus. But one of the issues that I had is, how do I practice this? Because talking to your own animals is not the same as talking to other people's. You know your own animals. How are you supposed to get small details when you know their details? So I didn't really know who to practice on. And then I was doing volunteer work for the SPCA, and I started kind of opening up a little bit about this animal communication to the director. And she's like, well, why don't you practice on my dogs? And so I did. And one of the things that I saw, like a vision of, was this crate and the dog sleeping in the crate at the end of the bed and the dog not being happy about it. And I was accurate when I told her what I saw. She said, that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what our room looks like. And I just thought she was being nice.
Right.
You know? So I never really believed in my own abilities. I never really did until like the last few years.
Yep.
I've really grown them. And I really want to teach people that this can be done.
Right.
You don't need special gifts to do this.
No.
And yeah, it could change your life, really, even if you just use it for your own animals, you know?
But you need two things in this equation for it to happen, and that can go with anything in anybody's life, is you have to put the work in and practice the muscle, and you have to believe.
Yes, you have to trust.
You have to trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say the same thing for me. I've been playing music for many years, but I've never believed in it like I believe in it now.
Right.
Something's different. Something's changed.
And I think that you made a good point there, because you said about the like patience and time and working that muscle and putting the effort in. As a species, we want it now.
Right.
You can say you don't, but you do.
That's
we know we all
biggest
do.
Flaw.
We want it right now, and it doesn't work like that.
No.
You have to work at it, and that's what I've been doing. And if I would have just sat around and been like, I can talk to animals and, played with it every once in a while like I had been, I wasn't going to grow it. But I didn't know that.
And you'd have a lot
didn't
less
realize
appreciation for the gift.
Yeah.
If you could simply snap your fingers and get from point A to point B without actually having to go through it.
Yep.
It's a part of what you do, for each of us. It's,
Right.
You're building that. You're putting the work in to say, I do this.
Right. I kind of said that to you last night. We were talking about something and you said, I didn't know if you were connected or something like that. And I said, I'm always connected. But if I would have said that to you, I wouldn't have said that to you a year and a half ago.
Right.
I was like barely connected. I'd be like, well, this is what I'm thinking, but I'm not really that connected. So no, time changes that. It builds that muscle. It builds your confidence. You need that. You need to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, trust me, if we would have started this podcast at the very beginning and I would have been sitting here like, well, maybe I have these gifts. No, I have them. They're great.
No,
So,
you can't deny it.
not anymore. Yeah. And it's wonderful. So I love sharing that and teaching people how to do that. And yeah, but you're right. You have to trust and you have to use the muscle.
And I could say the same thing, my path, even as far as the art and the music, it's like right off the bat, did I see it? Did I notice it? I saw some sort of like little, it's like seeing a light at the end of the tunnel that sort of shimmering.
Yeah.
But you got to get closer to it to tell really what it is.
Yeah.
And now it's like I look over the last 2 years and what's evolved both for us in our relationship and this aspect.
Yeah.
And then, what I'm doing personally or privately with painting and music, and that light, I'm much closer now.
Yeah.
And it's much more defined
Right.
of what it is. And so I
'Cause you're
don't
working
have,
it.
I'm practicing, I'm working it.
Yeah.
But that's giving me that faith. I can't look at it any longer uncertain of like, is this right?
Right.
No, there's no question in my mind.
Right.
It's right.
You didn't get there overnight.
No.
So take your time.
And
It's
looking
okay.
back, having that experience to look back at,
Yes.
you have pride there because you feel like you've put this time into it, you've watched it evolve, and now you can turn around and look at the path you've left and seen how it's changed from day one to the present.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's so important.
Yeah.
In our perspective, because life is so much about our perception.
Yeah.
But we also need to have perspective
Yep.
when approaching perception.
Absolutely. You're very right there. And it does take time and it does happen, but you have to be patient. You have to put the
You
work
really
into
do.
it. Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
So even if you're not like, if we would talk about these things and you start implementing them and it's not perfect, because it's not going to be, keep going, keep moving forward, keep practicing, because you will build it. You will get there. But it's just like going to the gym. If you don't use the muscle, you're not going to build it. You're not going to get a six pack just by sitting on the couch.
Right.
So work it. And I'll tell you, let me give you some reasons why animal communication is good to have, why you should do it, really.
Okay.
First of all, I think it builds a better understanding of animals in general. I think it connects you more to the universe and to the fact that we are not the only intelligent species on this planet. And that opens your eyes to a whole different world when you realize that.
Yep.
You also, once you know that you know what you're doing and you communicate with your own animals, that helps you to establish a better relationship with them.
Yep.
It helps you to know maybe when they don't feel good. A lot of things. There's a lot of different ways you can use it. Our Great Dane goes to daycare 3 days a week, and I check in on him. Usually halfway through, I'll check in and make sure that he's not too tired.
Right.
That's something that I've had to build on, but it helps us with our communication. It helps me to know he's okay. And I think there was one day that I didn't check in on him, and one of the girls over there, his pet sitter, she messaged me a picture of him laying down, and I was like, the one day that I didn't check in on him, he's exhausted.
Yeah.
So it really does. It becomes a really strong bond for you and your animals. So it's very beneficial in that way. Something that you should know about these abilities, as far as psychic abilities go, is this part of things is very different. Last week, we talked about your psychic senses.
Right.
And this does not fit into those categories, because this is telepathy that we're using for this. To talk to an animal that's alive, because you can talk to animals that have passed, but what I'm talking about is for animals that are alive. You're using telepathy.
Yep.
You're tuning into them. You're getting the messages directly from them. Now, you can use, if you have psychic abilities, you can use your psychic abilities to get deeper, to get more information.
Right.
But getting the information, the pictures directly from the animals, that's used by telepathy. That's telepathy. So two different things, two completely different things. So you can have them both, or you can have one or the other. I talk a lot about Chelsea. And when I started mentoring Chelsea, she liked animals, she was into it.
Right.
I didn't give her an option to learn about just psychic stuff. She learned about animal communication too. I threw it at her. I'm like, you're going to be an animal communicator. You have no choice. So she didn't even really know that it was an option.
That's funny.
I was just like, here it comes. Because I really do believe we can all do it. It's all in your head.
Well, once you're opening your mind, it kind of, I think, if you have animals around you, it sort of happens, but because it's rubbed off on me.
Oh yeah.
And like an example for me the other day, dog. It was dark. You were at work, and Sabbath was inside, but Zuma wasn't. And normally he doesn't like to go out when it's dark. If he's out there, it's just to go to the bathroom, and he comes back inside.
Yeah.
But he seemed to be gone for a few minutes, so it was like, that's weird. And I walked through the kitchen. You have to go through like our kitchen, through the studio to the garage. And I thought, is there a chance that I left the garage door open and he's in the garage? So I walk in there, and I just didn't yell his name. I just said, Zuma, you in here? And not literally 2 seconds later, I hear the dog door come in with intent, not like just flat, slow. Mm-hmm. He came right into the garage looking like all at attention.
Yeah.
Like, were you calling me?
Yeah. Are you okay? What's going on?
And there's no way, because there's soundproofing in the studio, there's no way he could have heard at that level me call his name in a regular tone of voice like this.
Yes.
All the way in the backyard.
He's very, very connected on that level. He's and that's another thing too to take into consideration with this, is that all animals are different.
Right.
Our black lab, Sabbath, he is nothing like Zuma. He's very hard to communicate with. I have to really, really tune into him, and a lot of times even look him square in the eye.
Right.
Like, you'll see when he's getting scolded, I won't say it out loud. I just stare at him and talk to him telepathically, and it backs him down. So they all handle things differently, all of them. Zuma, it was so funny because I test readers for our group, and a few months ago I was testing a new reader, and so I gave her Zuma to tune into. And the first thing he said to her is, "Are you an approved reader?" And it's so Zuma.
That's funny.
It's so Zuma because he's so connected to the whole thing. So you could have an animal that's like that's very perceptive, that where you just think their name and they come running.
Right.
Or you might have an animal that isn't interested.
Right.
You also will probably notice, if you're an animal owner, that they will try to communicate with you.
Yeah.
They will do their best to get through telepathically, but the majority of people don't listen to it. So then how else are they supposed to communicate?
Right.
So you can also use those subtle body clues to help you as well. If you keep an eye on those things, your animals will let you know when something's going on, if, you're not picking up on it in different ways.
Right.
So, something else is that, and I've mentioned this before, another way to look at this is like, if I spoke German and you don't, and so there's somebody that I have to translate for. Animal communication is pretty much the same thing.
Right.
I'm getting the information from the animal and I'm translating it to English to tell you what's going on. So that's another way to kind of look at animal communication and what it is. Yeah. Something else is, when you're doing these readings, you have to remember that there's a lot of emotions that are human emotions. You might get confused as to why you don't feel certain things from animals, such as anger or hatred. Those are not emotions that come from the animals. Those are human emotions. Right. I get asked by people all the time, that if an animal that was put to sleep, is my dog or cat mad at me? Right. No, they're not mad at you. They didn't have that emotion in life, let alone on the other side. That's a human emotion. Right. They have fear. So, and then the fear, like we see aggression, that's a fear response. Right. They don't hate you. They're not attacking because they hate you. They're attacking because they're scared.
Exactly.
It's completely different. So that's something else that we kind of have to
That's like the guy
remember.
that lived with the bears and studied the bears for a little while. A couple examples. I mean, Caesar, the dog whisperer, is a good example too. But I believe both of these guys could communicate telepathically with animals.
Right.
And the guy with the bears, he was there for a few days, him and his girlfriend, and I think a videographer. And everything was fine. And then finally the bears attack. Well, the bears weren't attacking because I think in that instance that they were scared or angry. They're not angry. And I think they were over the scared part. They were comfortable with them. They were just hungry.
Right.
I mean, these are wild animals,
they are
people.
Wild animals,
They aren't really meant to be hobnobbing with out in the wilderness. Do I believe the guy had a gift? Yeah.
Yeah.
He lost his life proving that gift.
Yeah.
I think all of them did.
Yeah.
But, and God, what a terrible way to go. But yeah, that's their instinctual, wild nature.
Well, and you have to think about it too. This is another way to look at it. We weren't there. We don't know why the bear turned, but if something startled that bear, if there was something that triggered that fear response, he just took it out on that person. Because yes, they do hunt. They do want to eat. But if we're looking at it from a different angle, that is another one that they could just simply be a fear response. They are wild animals. Yeah. They don't know any better. That's just what they do, But
they can be communicated with just like a domesticated animal.
This is a good point too. Yes, and I've been practicing a lot with that. That's once you get to the point where you feel like you're secure enough in your abilities that you don't need validation anymore. I don't need somebody to tell me, yes, that's correct. You're connected to this animal. I can go and just communicate with them.
Right.
It's different now. So then you start to learn about how different animals feel and how they respond. And I talk to the ravens here every day. I feed them. I'm trying to we've talked about it before, build the relationship with a couple of them. And it's interesting to watch them and to see how they interact with each other. And if you noticed, before I started communicating with them, I was feeding them already. I don't know if you've put this 2 and 2 together yet. Once I started communicating with them and letting them know that this was a safe place, the male birds started coming.
Yeah.
At first, they were all females. Now the male birds are coming.
Right.
And there's a lot of them.
Because they tell them.
I never see the males anywhere, and I'm all over this town, and I never see the males, just the females. So I know that that's because they're telling the males, this is a safe place. She's feeding us safe food,
Right.
You can do these things.
Yep.
We have raccoons that like to hang out here too, and there was one on the roof. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
And you were terrified because you've been chased by one.
Uh-huh.
But I was communicating with him, and he was so sweet. And he's just like, I'm just trying to feed my little raccoon family. That's
Yeah,
all.
sure. Stay away.
I said, yes, but my husband is deathly afraid, and I have a dog that's 150 pounds. So for your protection, just wait till everybody's in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the other benefit to this being able to, communicate with the animals telepathically and learning to do this for a couple different things. One is maybe you have a fear of animals yourself.
This is true.
Cats or dogs. So if you come at that animal in their presence and you're already communicating with them,
Yes.
You've got their attention.
Yes.
So most likely, if you're not staring them down in the face and looking angrily at them, they're not going to react in a scared way because they know you're telling them already, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm
Right.
safe. I'm come in love and peace and everything's good.
Yes.
So that can be very beneficial because animals, like children and humans,
Yeah.
we can sense each other's fear and uncomfortableness and
Yes.
what have you. The problem is humans can communicate that to each other. Animals can't.
That's exactly right.
So they're like a child that you're trying to figure out, like a baby, like, okay, they're upset. What's the matter? And you go with a kid, you go through the however many step process to figure out what it is. Are you wet, hungry, tired? Yes. Animals different because you don't go through those processes, but there is a way to figure it out.
Right.
I would say the other aspect is if you have an animal that's got some physical ailments, you can not necessarily diagnose their issues, but you might be able to tune into what's bothering them, and then you can go to your vet and say, I
Yes.
think something's going on with the right leg or
Yes.
something, because I'm keep getting this pain in the right leg thing, whatever the instance is. But
Yes. You make a good point on a lot of different things here. But I'm going to start with one of the things, and that is the tone. How you address these animals, because you had mentioned too about addressing them beforehand.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do is I'm a bird groomer, and once I meet a bird, when I go back out to groom it the second time, I let that bird know I'm on my way. I'm coming. I'm going to make you pretty, bird. It's going to be fine. I use that tone, the very gentle tone, and yes, tone in your mind. You know how it works because I'm sure you have the fake arguments in the shower just like the rest of us.
oh yeah,
So you know tone in your mind. So you have to use that gentle, mellow tone. And then that bird is prepared when I go out. And most people are blown away by I can't put my hand in the cage and pick up the bird. I mean, maybe I could, but I'm not going to try. I still have to treat them like they're an animal that could hurt me.
Yeah.
But people are blown away when they see that once I get that bird and I'm wrapped them up like a little birdie burrito, most of them don't fight me. They lay there, they let me do what I need to do. And that's very unusual for bird grooming. They're usually blah, blah,
Feisty,
carrying on. Yeah. But I talk to them the whole time through animal communication. Sometimes I'll even do it out loud because you can, telepathically and verbally, you can do that.
Sure.
So then people hear me. They hear the tone that I'm using. They hear what I'm saying. You're such a pretty bird and I'm going to make you prettier. You know what I mean?
right.
So these are,
It's comforting to them.
It is.
So it's really like, in essence, when you say that, it's like tone in your mind versus tone in your voice. Picture it like speakers that you're listening to your voice coming through, and you have a mute button.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kill the mute. I mean, you can hit the mute and kill the audio
Right.
voice you're hearing, but that voice and tone is still going on in your
Right.
head,
Yeah,
even though
that's a
you've
good
got
point.
the speakers muted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just as important when speaking to them out loud as it is in your mind, because I know with Zuma is very sensitive, and if
Oh, yeah.
any one of us raise our voice, he's sort of
Yep.
backing in a corner and like, what's going on, guys?
Yeah.
So he doesn't like that. And that's how, for me, really fast, is like how it's changed for me with animals is that I perceived them as animals before.
Yeah.
If I were to put like a terrible scenario in my head of if my house was burning and I had my wife and my kid and my dog, I'm going for my wife and kid first.
Well, yeah.
Okay, that's the truth.
That's the way.
But I look at them a lot different now. I would still go for my wife and kid first, but if there was time, I absolutely would be going for them.
Yeah.
Because I view them different. I view them, they're very much an energy. They're a soul.
Right.
just like you and I are.
Not that you're saying you would let them stay in the burning house.
No, I would do everything I could to
Right.
make sure they wouldn't. I'm just trying to tell you,
Right, an
if
analogy,
I had to pick one or the other,
Right.
I'm going for the human before the dog.
Right. We all understand. Yeah, we do
It doesn't
that.
mean
we have
that,
to.
but in this transition in my life, what's happened is I no longer just view these things as insignificant animals.
Right. They're family
that are
members.
here for our petting pleasures and, to make us feel warm and cuddly. They actually are here for a reason, their own reason,
Right.
their own path. They are a soul.
Yeah.
They're a different soul, a different type of energy, meaning I'm never going to come back as a dog and they're never going to come back as a human.
Right.
They're at their particular level.
Yes.
And most living things on this planet, if not everything, have some level of spirit, energy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, everything is energy.
So I see them much more as a soul, and I realize that those animals, our dogs, our cats, our pets, they do have emotions.
Right.
But they can't express it like we can express it.
Right.
So they're at a disadvantage. But when you open your mind to something like this and communicating with them, you're taking that disadvantage away to a degree.
Right.
You're helping them, you're helping yourself,
Right.
So it's changed for me dramatically.
Yes.
in the way that I view them.
I have seen that, absolutely, and I love that you've grown in that way, because for me, it was very important. My first husband was a huge animal lover. Everybody in my life it was just important that the next person the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with was also an animal lover as well. And you just happened to have had a black lab previously, right. And we connected on that because,
and we
labs,
both
I love
had dreamed
labs.
About having a Great Dane.
Yeah.
We talked about that. So
yeah.
it wasn't ironic at all that the universe brought us Zuma.
Mm-hmm.
And in my favorite color, which
Yeah.
I didn't even know they existed.
No, yeah, he's
in that
brown.
color.
If you don't, I've never seen.
But
it.
yeah, I was always an animal lover, but I wasn't always an animal understander.
Right. So it's been a nice thing for us too. So you can look at that as another thing. If you work on this with your spouse and they start to see you growing as an animal lover, they'll grow too. We're proof of it. I mean, you don't look at me like I'm crazy anymore when I say things about animals and, how they are and that kind of thing. You get it more now. And that's something that I will put up a red flag on for some people, is that once you do delve into this and you really start to see animals on this type of level, it changes you. It affects you in a way, for a lot of people, that you become really hypersensitive.
Yeah.
I've always been hypersensitive because I've always been this connected to animals.
Yeah.
Can't do Walt Disney movies. Everything's my favorite. Love Disney.
Right.
Will not watch Bambi. What's the other? Dumbo. Any of those.
Right.
Any
Lion
of those.
King.
Yeah. No. Nothing animal related. I can't do it.
Right.
You get that sensitivity where it just affects you in a different way. You
Right.
can't handle you almost absorb those emotions. So you have to be careful with that. The way that, I don't know, the way that you deal with it in yourself, because you can't walk around as a mess either.
Right.
You have to meditate it out sometimes too. And you've talked about before how I've asked not to see certain things.
Yeah.
That's another thing you can do, is put limitations on it. Because,
Boundaries.
Yes. Because I cannot have visions of an animal dying if it was tragic. Like if the owner's there and they're loving on this dog and putting it down and it was an okay situation, that's one thing.
Right.
But the worse the situation, the less of it I need to know about. Sometimes if it's really severe, I won't know anything about how it happened, just stuff about the animals, so themselves, their personalities. So you can set those boundaries. Very important. If you need to do that, do it. Because I couldn't do this job if I had to see those things. There's no way.
I don't blame you.
And there's certain things I still can't handle. And if they come in like on the free reading page, Chelsea will do those. And I'll do like the babies because she can't handle those. So there's going to be things that you may not be able to handle, and don't feel like you have to do it all, because you don't.
Yeah.
Pick and choose. If you're
I think
going to
something that changed for me too, and this is as a parent of a human, is that I've told my child sometimes it's like the the connection between a mother and a child or a parent and a child, that for me, it's like I love her so much, sometimes it hurts.
Yes.
Even, and now I know anybody that's lost somebody definitely understands that feeling.
Yes.
But you feel it when they're alive too.
Mm-hmm.
And meaning you don't want to see anything happen bad to them. You want to care and shelter them, for their whole existence and try to keep them from any harm.
Yes.
When I started feeling that with the animals, that's when I knew I was connected. I was particularly connected to my lab before in my previous marriage. And that's where the experience of like seeing them through their whole life and putting them down.
Yeah.
And the amount of emotion and pain that it was to put them down. My ex couldn't even be in the room.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that. I was like, I can't let her go in there like this.
Yeah.
And go through that alone.
Right.
And I laid in there with her for a while after she was gone and just held her, cried and held her. And that's when I realized I'm connected to these things. They are souls, man. They're not just a four-legged creature.
Right.
That then has to expand my mind even further, which would be a whole different topic. But that is, if there is other intelligent life right on this planet next to me, then why in the heck wouldn't there be intelligent life anywhere else besides this planet? In multiple forms.
It's very, naive to believe that that's not the case. We look at animals as not intelligent because they can't communicate with us with a language that we as humans have developed.
Right.
They do communicate. They communicate telepathically. We're the dumb ones.
Right.
We're the less intelligent ones. And I know there's some people there sitting going, oh, that's not true. My dog is right. Yes,
absolutely
it is.
True. If you can communicate telepathically, you have no limits per se in a lot of things. I think when you can do that, I don't agree with that.
No, not at all. I was reading some things online from other animal communicators to make sure that when I did this information that I was covering everything. And that was one thing that one of them pointed out. She said, if you think that these creatures are not intelligent, this is not the job for you. Because all of them are highly intelligent. The only one that I can say that's been a little derp is chickens. Yeah. When I try to connect to chickens, they're kind of like, what? What do you want to do? So they might be a little bit, I don't know.
And that's just the level of their kind of energy, what they are. And it's okay. Yeah. But I definitely believe that not only in this universe, but in this galaxy, that there are other beings that look at our level of intelligence as equal to an amoeba.
Oh, yeah.
So if we think we're so smart, wow, wait till we meet some of these things.
Yeah, I know. That's interesting. So a couple of things I did want to point out about what animal communication is not. It is not a way to control animals. And I do get some people that I do reading for that don't really understand that. You have to look at them as children. And this is a good way to explain it to people if you're going to do this professionally, is you have to look at them as children that you have to explain things to on a certain level. And just because you maybe explain it to them doesn't mean that the first time is going to get them to stop the behavior.
Exactly.
If it did, life would be really easy. Right. So just because you tell an animal, hey, you need to stop barking at whatever, that doesn't mean they're going to stop barking.
Right.
Can you control it a little bit better? Yes. We have used this as a way to kind of control our dog Zuma on walks. He doesn't get those walks really anymore because he's naughty. But if we stay on top of him, and we are, talking to him and not trying to control him, but letting him constantly know this is what's expected of you. It's going to be okay. Right. He does great. But just like a child, a lot of times you let them go and then they start acting like maniacs again.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Right.
Same thing with the animals as with kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, he would, if we saw a dog come around a corner in advance and notified him, we could keep him calm.
Yeah, he loves other dogs.
He does.
Yeah, so he wants to be.
But if we didn't see it first and he did, he's reactionary.
Yeah.
So kind of what you were saying is, like children, you have to approach it more from a positive affirmation. Yeah. If you scream and yell at your dog and scare them, that's what you're going to get.
Because they don't know what you're screaming and yelling. Imagine somebody screaming at you in German.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of loud. And we all know loud is uncomfortable and aggressive. We can all sense aggression.
Right.
And so doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I think that they definitely are very aware of your tone and your body language. So being positive in your affirmation is going to get a better result.
Yes.
Out of that.
And again, you can look at that as kids, even as with people in general. If you were to walk up to somebody and say, "How are you today?" in a nice tone, or you went up, "How are you today?" It makes a big difference how you approach it.
Exactly.
So why would it be any different with an animal? You're not going to approach it on
They're
an aggressive
a lot more
level.
like us than we really realize.
Yeah. So you definitely that's yes. So anyways, it's not a quick fix. You can train them with animal communication. I've done it on certain things with our dogs. It really does work. It's consistency. Again, it's not just you're going to do it once and they're going to remember right away. You have to continuously do it. I've trained Sabbath when we go on our walks. There's an area by the school we walk by that is dirt and it's full of glass, just full of it. And we used to avoid it on our walks. And I was like, why are we avoiding it? I'm just going to train him not to go in there. And that's exactly what I did. And it took a little while. I didn't use verbal commands. I just used animal communication. And now what happens is when we start to approach the glass, I remind him, you're not allowed in there. Stay to the side. And he does. He does. And sometimes he tests me. And like if I'm not paying attention to him, he'll be like, oh, maybe I should go over there. So again, like a kid, you still have to stay on top of
They're
them.
very much like they need to know that you're the alpha or the omega.
The alpha.
Okay. That you're in charge. They need to know, they need your direction.
Yes.
And they thrive off your praise for following that direction.
Yes.
Just like a child would. It's really the same thing. So your approach is of the utmost importance.
Right. And your reaction.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when one of our dogs gets sick, if, you know, a lot of times people react like, the dog threw up, they get all mad. But all you're doing when you react that way is telling that dog that what they just did was wrong.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand that you're mad about that you have to clean that up. They think that you're mad because they threw up. And then you have other problems to deal with.
Right.
So these are things to remember, not just in your own lives, but if you are thinking about doing this professionally or whatever, that you need to tell people these things because they don't realize this. It's not common sense. It's because, again, animals can't talk to us. So until somebody kind of, hello, a lot of times they won't know.
And the training has to be, if you're using this to train an animal, it has to be a team effort. Just like having a family is a unit, it's a team effort. So you raise a child to understand your way of living and what you expect, but this is a continual process through their growing up that you have to give these lessons and teach, and then kind of test them with it at times.
Right.
So it's a group effort. You can't give a dog, like you said, one command once and expect them to remember. You have to be staying upon your part of the job as the teacher, and the student, the animal, has to be staying on their part of the job. Just like kind of what Caesar the dog whisperer, I've seen him, because I know for sure this is how this guy's doing this. He knows how to telepathically communicate with animals.
He may not admit it, but
yeah, he doesn't, because I think maybe a lot of the stigma people he wouldn't be successful in his job, maybe, whatever. It's sad, but that's my opinion of why I think he does that.
Yeah.
But he's very clear when he returns the dogs back to the owners that you need to continue with this. I can't work with him for whatever the 2 weeks or a month, give him back to you, and you think you're never going to have a problem with him again.
Right.
You have to stay up on this as the other team member of this team.
Yes.
And constant positive affirmation and remembering and, kind of reminding them of what was taught. Because if they go back to being the same owner they were, their animal's going to go back to being the same animal they were.
That's exactly right. That's right.
So it's cause and effect, like one changes the other.
That's exactly right. Yep. And the more that you use this with your own animals and put those things to use,
Right.
the better it gets.
Yeah.
Even for yourself.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be, I mean, I love to teach people how to do this, but this is for your like you were saying, for yourself too, and your own connection.
And you'll have a better relationship with your animal.
Absolutely. It really does. It bonds you on a different level. It does. I will say that if you have certain fears, because there are a lot of people that are concerned about things, their animal dying or whatever, then you should stay away from with your own animals and the medical situation. Like, for example, if I feel like maybe there's something wrong with one of our dogs, I'll double check with another animal communicator. Not that I doubt my abilities, but because I'm so emotionally connected to our dogs that I feel like I might be reacting out of my own emotions.
It's a second opinion in a sense. Yeah.
So, but it also makes it so that you don't obsess about it, because if you have something that you think may be going on with your dog and you're obsessing about it and it's not really a vision, it's not something they're telling you, it's your own mind, it really is helpful to get it, second opinion from somebody else.
Sure.
So, on the medical side of things, you had brought this up a little bit earlier, is I will do medical diagnosis to a certain degree with animals. I will not do it with people. I only do it with animals because the animal can tell me how they're feeling. But you have to remember that because the animal can tell me how they're feeling, it's just like going to the doctor. I'm only taking those symptoms that the dog's giving me and trying to analyze what it is.
Right.
So for the most part, when I do a reading and somebody says, I don't think my dog's feeling well or whatever, I'll tell you what the animal is feeling, where the pain is, those types of things. If I get a diagnosis, it's using my psychic ability. So this is a good way to show the difference. A diagnosis would come from my psychic ability, where the symptoms and what they're feeling would come from the animal and the telepathy themselves.
Right.
I try to stay away from the psychic side of it, the diagnosis, unless I'm really, really, really sure, because I'm not a vet and I don't want it to come back at me.
Right.
And I always, always, always tell people that no matter what I say to them, they should always get an opinion from a vet. Don't take it from me.
Yeah.
But it is very helpful because some people just don't even see the obvious.
Right.
Like, I get dogs that are super itchy all the time. Is your dog itchy? Yeah. Are you doing anything about it? No, I just thought it was nothing. Well, how's it nothing?
Right. How would you like to be itchy?
Right. So, see what I mean? So the medical, I kind of have to help with that. It's not a human that can tell you what's physically wrong.
Sure.
But you do have to kind of put limits on it as well, so that you're not overstepping psychic boundaries, because dealing with medical is a touchy situation.
Mm-hmm.
I will not give people a diagnosis. That's just not okay. I try to stay away from even being told those types of things. So let's see what else I have for you. Another thing is to open your mind to new things. A lot of us want to stay in dogs and cats. Don't just stick in that. We talked about wild animals. And you're practicing, talk to everything, because you'll be surprised to see just how different these animals are. Like, right. I talked to a sloth. I did sloth yoga, and I talked to that sloth, and that was interesting. But one of my favorites, and this was before you knew I was an animal communicator that this happened, there was a guy that had illegal snakes in Thousand Oaks. Yeah. And there was a white cobra that got out. And so they're showing this cobra on the news, and I'm seeing it on Facebook, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, that's a cool snake. I'm not a snake person. Like, I could be friends with a snake. He's really cool. He's not trying to hurt anybody. Right. He's just going on a little outing, And I think I told you, I'm like, I like this snake. You're like, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? But you see, I would have just thought, I wouldn't go out there and like stand in the backyard that this cobra was in or anything, but talking to him, it opened my eyes on a different level of these animals are not the aggressive creatures that maybe we make them out to be. Right. We learned more about their personalities. You start to see those little things that you didn't see before. And when you expand to wild animals or whatever, you're opening your mind to new experiences that you didn't even know were possible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're not encouraging people to go out in the woods and
try
to communicate with bears and rattlesnakes and mountain lions. But you could go to a zoo and you could sit and exhibit for a minute and try to connect with one of the animals in it and see what happens.
Yes.
That's a good, safe way to try to connect and communicate with a wild animal.
That's exactly right. And different ways that you can practice too. This is kind of reminding me of that is if you like on Facebook, I follow some of like Simi Valley Missing Pets, things like that. And I'll scroll through there. And if there's dogs that are missing, like if they're, trying to find the owner, I'll just tell the dog or cat, whatever it is, you're okay. They're looking for your owner. Everything's going to be fine. I try and calm them down. If there's dogs that are missing, because sometimes there's ones that go missing like out in the hills and stuff, I'll do the same thing. You can really help on so many different levels that you don't realize.
Yeah.
Once you know how to do this, those are other ways to practice. And you might not get validation that what you're doing is working or is accurate. It doesn't matter. It's still practice. You're still using the muscle and expanding it. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I could honestly go on and on for hours, but we're out of time and I'm tired. So But yeah, animals, they're my passion. And if anybody needs to practice and they don't know how to practice, I will help you. I can send you pictures of our animals and you're more than welcome to practice on them. So Message me or whatever. I'd love to help. Yeah, there's a definitely shortage of animal communicators. There's a lot of psychics, but not a lot of animal communicators. So it's an open field. So if you're thinking about getting into it, maybe here's your tap tap from the other side saying do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fun one.
That was fun.
And it's right up your alley like we knew it would be.
Yeah. You know what? One day I wouldn't mind doing a podcast, a separate one all about animals. I know you're like, no.
Yeah, you're going to have to hire somebody else for that one.
I'll do it by myself. Just because I really think that there's a lot of ways that we could help animals and,
I agree.
their owners. So maybe someday.
It's a shame. It's a shame to see some of them kind of going away, and you think about all the work, people like Noah did to preserve these creatures,
Right.
and to kind of make it happen and keep them here. And I'd like to see that continue.
Right.
Let's keep them here, but let's try to treat them like they belong here as much as we belong here.
This is their home.
Yeah.
Just as much as it is ours. We're just impeding on their territory while they don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Valid point.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, that was a cool one.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody listening in. But before we say goodbye, do you want to share anything of your information?
Absolutely. You can find everything about me on my website at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. And again, that new company that I'm working for is called Shine Psychics, and they have an app, I believe, for iPhone, Google, all of that. So there's that. And my blog, I'm behind on my blog. I apologize if you follow that. I will get it done. Just a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. This time of year too,
Holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a busy time for work for you too. So.
Oh, I've been very busy. So today's like the first somewhat quiet day.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and if you like art, you can check me out at djonesartcollection.com and also on Facebook and Instagram at djonesartcollection, and music, gypsybrown.com. And you can find us at Instagram, on Instagram at gypsybrownmusic. And we're also on Facebook.
Yay.
So that's it.
Great.
And got a new painting coming up pretty soon. So
oh yeah,
next week probably, I hope. And music's moving forward.
Yay.
Trying out a bass player this coming week.
Yay.
And see where this takes us in the next phase of our journey.
Yeah. And you guys are watching all of it unfold for everything.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you being here.
Cool.
Yeah.
We do.
Yep.
Well, we had a great week and a great episode with you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And we hope you have a wonderful week and a great rest of your holidays, but we'll be saying that again
yeah.
before. And until next week,
Peace and love.